This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. No, this is not a rerun. What you're seeing on the screen is supposedly something that's happening in the real world. But of course, we know that the news is here to manufacture human behavior. It's to push agendas and it's to deceive the public. It is nothing more than propaganda. But this is not a rerun, folks. There is another COVID variant that has hit the United States of America. And you might be saying, well, we've heard of other variants before. Why is this necessarily a big deal right now? Why do I care? Well, this is all happening at the same exact time that the WHO adopted the pandemic agreement about a week ago. And of course, Donald Trump is pretending that America is not going to be a part of the pandemic treaty, that he's separating America from the WHO. But those are all fabrications from the father of the vaccine, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. Some of the stuff you're going to hear is going to flat out frighten you. And no, it's not going to frighten you in regards to a virus or getting sick. It's going to frighten you that the media is actually putting reports out there about how the Trump administration and RFK Jr. and the FDA, how they're not going to be approving fall booster shots for pregnant women and for children. That's right. We actually have people who are upset that they may not be allowed to get the vaccine if they are indeed pregnant or they want to give it to their child. Now, we all know that these actual restrictions are going to be lifted. They are not going to be put in place where people will not be allowed to go and get vaccines. This is part of the Build Back Trust plan. This is Trump and the Republican Communist Party's way of building back their trust with MAGA. One of the plans of the World Economic Forum, of course, that they've constantly talked about since COVID is how they have to build back trust. So Donald Trump has to pretend that he wants nothing to do with this new pandemic treaty. RFK has to pretend, even though he was invested in CRISPR gene editing, that he wants no part of these vaccines. But you'll quietly find out come fall that all pregnant women will be allowed to get this vaccine, and so will children. But let me start by showing you what's airing on the local news. They're bringing on another one of these actor TV doctors to talk about a variant of COVID again.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says he is removing the CDC's recommendation for children and healthy pregnant women to get the COVID-19 vaccine. And a new variant of the virus has made its way into the U.S. The strain is now being reported in at least 4 states, including California, Washington, Virginia, and the New York City area. Let's bring in Dr. William Schaffner. He's an infectious disease expert and professor of medicine at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. So, doctor, I mentioned this new variant comes at a time when the FDA is also planning on limiting access to the COVID vaccine come the fall, demanding new trials. How significant is today's announcement about the removal of this recommendation for children and pregnant women?
Well, Lindsay, the removal of the recommendation for younger persons and pregnant women is a top-down recommendation. You know, normally we give recommendations to the CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, and they then send that recommendation up through the CDC director to the secretary. And that system has worked very well for over 60 years. And so we're in a little bit of uncertain turf here about how recommendations are going to be made going into the future. Now, let me say quickly that the CDC's Advisory Committee is scheduled to meet in June. And actually, their discussions in their previous meeting looked to me as though they were moving in an entirely similar direction. So at the moment, I think the availability of vaccines for younger persons and for pregnant women, just as the COVID summer surge is about to begin, is a little bit uncertain about whether insurers will pay for it.
Let's talk about COVID summer surge, the possibility of. Is that because of this new variant, or is that because in summers past we've also seen an uptick in cases? And what can you tell us about this new variant?
Yeah, and for several summers before, we've had a summer, midsummer, late summer surge in addition to the winter surge. It's like a two-hump camel that we have. This new variant appears to be a member of the Omicron family, just another cousin, if you will, to those Omicron variants that are going around. does not appear to be more severe, is likely to be contagious, and the currently available vaccine is likely to continue to provide protection against severe disease. So that's very reassuring.
Okay, Dr. William Schaffner, thank you so much.
So we have a new highly contagious variant that triggered a sharp rise in hospitalizations across China, and it's now been detected in the U.S., including in New York City. The strain is called NB181, or as I like to call it, FAKE, because it's about as fake as the Easter Bunny. But it was first reported in the U.S. between late March and early April among international travelers arriving at airports in California, Washington State, Virginia, and New York. Additional cases have since emerged in Ohio, Rhode Island, and Hawaii. This is all make-believe. This is all false data to put things in people's minds. How in the world would they be monitoring and tracking this? Are you telling me that people are going to the airport still to this day and getting swabs in their noses? If they are, well, they might as well bring the paddy wagon and the white jacket, the straight jacket, to the airport as well to bring these people into homes to be permanently committed in. Maybe there's room at Arkham Asylum. So they're talking about a variant again. Why? Well, it's not just to remind people and get people on board with the booster shots that are coming. We all know that this is not going away, that they need to enter people's bloodstreams. They need to have access underneath your skin. And yes, we all understand that they're spraying us every single day. They have smart dust. They are putting nanotechnology on our bodies, but it's integral for them to get inside of the body, to get underneath the skin and be able to, of course, monitor and track where people are going. So the WHO pandemic treaty, what a coincidence, right? They've been talking about this for years. Quietly has just been passed about a week ago, where they can fast track emergency use authorizations with no built-in safety guarantees. There's no liability or compensation for vaccine injuries. And of course, they also can force you into getting a vaccine by telling you that we aren't going to force anything. We aren't going to override sovereignty. We're not going to take away your rights. That's what they told you last time when they took your jobs away. And then they never gave people their jobs back. They never were held accountable for what was done. People weren't given income who had income stolen from them. And of course, we know how many people lost their right to free speech and how many doctors actually lost their practices during that time period. So the other thing that's important to note with this pandemic treaty is coordination of global pathogen and health data via who runs surveillance systems. That's the digital infrastructure for tracking and compliance. And we know that this bill is going to give them even more authority over the information flow that is out there. There is going to be mass amounts of more online censorship. It's been a little bit quiet recently, right? I think it's been a few months since a channel that sounds a lot like mine has been removed from the platform, but give it time. I'm sure it's coming possibly after this video. But there will be more waves of censorship. This calm that people feel where, oh, okay, they're done, COVID's over, they're not going to try to do this again, they're not going to try to lock us down, they're not going to take away free speech. It's just in the middle right now of a tug of war. It's going between the left and the right. Right now we're seeing the left get censored with speech, supposedly at least, on internet platforms. And of course, I've covered that recently with everything going on with Gaza and Palestine and Microsoft and how they're trying to block emails from being sent out that have certain words in the emails. These are all things that are coming with China's firewall. We're going to have America's firewall. So the new international law commitment is going to tie the future governments to WHO decisions, which include future lockdowns. They will argue that they are not bound by the WHO. All of these countries that have signed this treaty are going to say that they're not bound by the WHO, but they are bound by the WHO. This entire operation that's going on right now is all via people who were not ever elected in the first place. Not to say that any prime ministers or any presidents are actually elected this day and age. None of them really are. No votes are really counted. But these people who claim to be doing this in the name of health are obviously using this as a veil to get away with mass genocide. But all the attorney generals, all of the people put in positions of power, just like they did last time, will be on board with this, just like they were last time. So here is a clip from the conversation of the exciting new pandemic treaty where all of these frauds who should all be arrested on the spot are applauding the fact that they now have full control over your life and eventually your movements. Because remember, the digital surveillance system, which I'll get into momentarily, but here they are all cheering and applauding that they now have your government's at least permission to have control over you.
The report contains one resolution to adopt the WHO Pandemic Agreement entitled Draft Resolution on the WHO Pandemic Agreement. Is the Assembly ready to adopt this resolution? I see no objection. The resolution is adopted.
Last night, you approved it. 124 member states voted in favor and none against. And today, we celebrate. Today, you have sent a loud message that multilateralism not only works, but is the only way to find shared solutions to shared threats. Let's not understate what you have achieved. You have made the world a safer place. I repeat, a safer place. It will not infringe on national sovereignty in any way, nor give the WHO Secretariat power to impose mask or vaccine mandate or lockdowns. Anyone who says it will is clearly mistaken. You, the member states, have made that very clear in the text of the agreement itself. Your adoption this morning of the WHO pandemic agreement will rank among the most significant achievements in the history of this organization and of global health.
So, of course, one of the most important things in all of this is how this plays out with Donald Trump, because they cannot have Trump lose his base, because the only base that would actually cause any type of revolution is the base that follows Donald Trump. And they're all under the control of Donald Trump's propaganda machine. They all follow everything that he says. They forget about things that he does. And if Donald Trump came out and said that America was signing and going to be a part of this pandemic treaty, he would lose his base. That's the only thing that Donald Trump could do right now that would get him to lose his base. They're not seeing the AI governance infrastructure that he's putting in place. They're not seeing all the other stuff with the North American Union that he's putting in place. They're not seeing the stuff with the surveillance state that he's putting in place with the Golden Dome. If Trump came out and once again supported this, and once again said America was going to align with the WHO and we're going to sign this treaty, this would lose his base and this would scare them, because the only thing that would scare them is if they didn't have control over the conservative party, where people who are actually armed, who might potentially actually rise up against tyranny, they have to make sure that they're under control. So that's exactly why all this propaganda is out there about how the WHO has finalized the new treaty that is preparing us for the next pandemic, but Donald Trump won't sign it, right? But how convenient that all of those people forget all of these quotes from the father of the vaccine himself.
I pushed them like they've never been pushed before, and that's why we have it.
Greatest achievements was getting the vaccine done in 9 months instead of 5.5 to 12 years. But the problem is, we saved tens of millions of lives all over the world, but I can't talk about it because our base, our beautiful base of which some of you are there, you get angry when we mention the word vaccine. Don't get angry.
You did everything you could to get this vaccine out. I know where you
stand
on the vaccine.
It was one of the greatest achievements. We did it in less than 9 months.
To be able to do that.
Yeah,
but now it's taken a twist, right?
And then people don't want it, and it probably even affects the others, because, there's a big situation with a lot of people don't want to take the vaccine. Well, this played right into their hands. And they want me to do public service messages and everything about everybody taking the vaccine. And look, I guess in a certain way, I'm the father of the vaccine because I was the one that pushed it. To get it done in less than 9 months was a miracle. Fauci said it would take 3 to 5 years. He thought it was something that just wouldn't be that effective because it would take so long to get. I pushed the FDA like they have never been pushed before. I wouldn't exactly say they're in love with me. They have never. This is a very bureaucratic organization. I push them like they've never been pushed before, and that's why we have it.
The vaccine is one of the greatest achievements of mankind. We would have had in 1917, remember the Spanish flu, killed perhaps 100 million people. Can you imagine if you had to go through what all of the countries of the world who are now getting the vaccine or soon will be getting it from various companies, but can you imagine if all of those countries had to go through what they've been going through over the last year? You'd lose hundreds of millions of people.
Let the teachers get the vaccine. They should get the vaccine. I hope they do. Again, it's something I'm very proud of. 9 months, less than 9 months, you would have another Spanish flu, maybe 100 million people. Who knows? I mean, the numbers were really incredible. But you add the fact that I was the one, and this administration was the one that came up with a vaccine, which is going to save the world, okay? It's going to save. We would be, I think, worse than 1917, where 50 to 100 million people died. And look, I guess in a certain way, I'm the father of the vaccine because I was the one that pushed it. You know, to get it done in less than 9 months was a miracle. And look, I guess in a certain way, I'm the father of the vaccine.
So it's amazing you can even talk about his base and say, oh, they're beautiful. Why are you anti-vax? Why are you anti-vax? Because they kept trying to push it. The alt-right media kept trying to push it, and it didn't work. So they've pivoted in regards to their digital surveillance system. They've got you distracted with borders and thinking about how Mexican drug cartels are coming across the border with bags of fentanyl when your own government is the one doing the distribution on it. They've got everybody looking there because that's their plan to bring in their digital ID to conservatives, is through getting them all worked up and gaslit over the border security, and false flag after false flag after false flag that they create to make people want and ask the government to do something about the border. And then on top of that, of course, all of the psyops they've put out there in regards to what? Voting. Illegals are voting. Illegals are allowed to vote. All things that make no sense. All things that people should be going, wait, what? People don't even live in America can vote in the elections. And of course, they're telling you all that stuff because they want you to demand something be done about it. And what's going to be done, of course, will be a digital ID, which will bring in digital surveillance. So Trump's pivot is with the Iron Dome, the Golden Dome, this surveillance state that they're going to be bringing in, which is have nothing to do with a missile protection system. It's going to be a full-on surveillance state brought about by Trump, AI infrastructure governance. So while these other things are going on with pandemic treaties, they're going to work in their digital surveillance through different means for the Conservative Party. That's the only reason that Donald Trump is out there openly saying we want no part of it. RFK saying, oh, yeah, we're pregnant women aren't going to get it. Children aren't going to be mandated to get it, right? So what are they doing? They're building back trust, because if he ever came out and he ever said he was going to bring in another vaccine or anything like that, his fan base, his supporters, his cult would fade off. And that's what they fear the most. They have to keep those people in the vacuum, in the conservative hive mind. It's the truth. It's the truth of the matter. They've worked too hard to build up this support. When Donald Trump ran in 2016, he didn't have a following like this. We didn't have these people who were completely unhinged. They did so much psychological ops on the masses, from a fake assassination attempts to all the stories that we all constantly had to hear about bringing trans people into public schools and bringing in all this racial doctrine into school. All these things that got people so irate with what America was becoming by design. And then they fake assassinate Trump. Trump's the only one that's going to drain the swamp. He's the one that's going to get rid of the deep state. So now he can't do anything wrong in their eyes, except for one thing, of course. And that would be if he was on board with the pandemic treaty, and if he actually was on board once again with another vaccine. So the digital surveillance will come in a different way in America in regards to how they force you and manipulate you into their full-on online Internet of Bodies surveillance state. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. Watch out for the latest variant that's out there. I'm surprised at this point they're not even giving these variants names. We just got these HB1s and all this other stuff. I miss the Deltas, the United Airlines, I mean, all the airlines that they were using at one point. I miss when they actually gave us a whole list of the variants ahead of time. They were telling us the variants that were going to come out each month, a year in advance. Does anyone remember some of that stuff? Those videos are available over on the website. But now we don't even get that. But the hysteria is still there. It's almost like dealing with children. RFK says we're going to take them away. Most people out there shouldn't even be thinking in terms of our boosters even around anymore, because most normal people aren't. But when some of these narcissists hear that stuff, they go, I want it. Who is he to tell me I can't have it? I'm going to go get it. It's my body, my choice, right? But when it's flipped the other way, it's not your body, your choice, right? When they say that people who don't want it have to get it, even though the ones who are getting it are supposed to be the ones who are immune, their heads just explode, because common sense doesn't work in this realm anymore, clearly. And they could put stories like this out there, and still we're dealing with people who are getting boosted, doctors who are showing up on the news, and somehow the hypnosis and the effect of this hypnotism that's been done on them is still going on. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.